welcome to the second edition of What's Next with Joe McGuire and Robert Giovanetti. Coach, what's next? What's going on in your world? 2 practices in. Got to feel good right now.
Feel really good. I've been excited. I think there's so much new. Everybody wants to talk about the roster.
Sure.
And we do have a lot of new players, but we also have 2 new coordinators. We have 2 new secondary coaches, and we got a new running backs coach. And so that it's really exciting. As far as the getting the new offense, the new defense installed. It's been a lot of fun. 2 really, really good days of spring football.
Speaking of new, we talked about this last week. You're in your new office. Got the new Womble Football Center, new coaches' offices here. How's that been, just the transition of day-to-day, walking across the Sky Bridge, coming back and forth? How's that been?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, there wasn't a lot. Like, we didn't have to bus anywhere like some schools have to on a regular basis. But, we were in portables, the dressing room and everything were portables, and then you had to go around or through the practice fields to get to the box. Fort Ramirez is what we called it, the training room. There was just so much going on during construction, where guys parking on the west side, but most of their life was done on the east side of the stadium. And so there's a lot of movement. Now, this building, that's one of the best things about this building. It flows so well. The design of the south end zone and the Womble Football Center, the flow of this building is absolutely incredible.
What's been the best thing about it so far being here? You can tell. Now, I want to ask you I want to ask you the worst thing, but what's the best thing that's been so far?
I knew that the walkthrough room was going to be awesome. I thought the learning, I'm going to do 2. I think the recovery part of this building for the players, man, they live in here. I mean, they really do. I mean, we could go down right now, and I've called it the spa area, but we could go down to the hot tub, cold tub that comes right outside of their shower. And there's going to be guys down there in it right now. Every part of the day, whenever I go down there to, just walk around and check on the team, there's people in there. And then I think the second part is the meeting rooms. Every meeting room, stadium seating, you're not looking the back of somebody's head. You're not having to move to the side to see what's going on. I think that those 2 things have been such a big upgrade in this facility. It's making a huge difference.
What about those beds that you can lay on? They become like water beds. I tried those out one day, and I thought I could spend some serious time in here. Are we using those?
We're using them
after this.
You can. You ought to. We're using them a lot. I actually, I spent a weekend with Wes Welker this past weekend.
I saw that.
And went and saw Wade Bowen, and we raised a lot of money for the boys and girls club here in Lubbock, the organization here in Lubbock. But I needed a nap, so I might have Sunday gone and taken a nap, 30-minute nap to get going.
Did you get on that bed?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to blame it on Wes Welker.
It's kind of like a water bed, and you can play music.
Oh yeah,
waves and things.
Well, you can go. You can cool the water. You can do your body temp, or you can warm the water. Yeah. I mean, it's not hot. It's warmer than your body temp, and you get in there for 30 minutes. Put the headphones on, and you're going to feel refreshed at those end of 30 minutes. It's really cool because you start on a hard surface, and that surface lowers, and you're just suspended in water.
It's really crazy. The only time I tried it, but I was pretty impressed. Talk about Wes a little bit. It's great. I think they called him, asked if he would come back, and he said yes. What's y'all's relationship? Did you know each other very well, or what's that been like?
He was one of the first calls I made whenever I got the job. I was actually still in Waco whenever I got on the phone with him. Cliff Kingsbury is a really good friend of mine, and I think a lot of Cliff. He gave me his number. He gave me a couple of numbers of different people to call, and Wes was one of them. So started a relationship there. He came out last year and spoke at our coaches clinic, then came back out this year. And man, it's so great to see these guys come back, and they're so proud of being a Red Raider. But when he toured this facility on Saturday, his Red Raider, his pride meter just went even higher. I mean, he was absolutely blown away And these guys kind of make, especially the older guys that, were 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, of just the different facilities that they were in, and they're just blown away with what these guys are in right now.
Yeah, and Wes is really a guy that we put him in the Ring of Honor, and so he's been back a few times now. So that's great to have these guys come back. And Wade Bowen's also a great Red Raider too, and I know that he's a big supporter as well. Yeah,
I love Wade. I love country music, and his new album, I thought he hit a home run with, and he has been great. He did if you remember, year one, we did an event with him in Dallas, and that's where he and I met, and we hit it off. It's funny. I'll get texts from him all the time whenever we get a good recruit. Pat Green has been amazing. Josh Abbott it's funny. Josh Abbott will actually send me some video of some recruits. Hey, coach, have you seen this guy? So, he's really
Josh is locked in. He's about as locked in a fan as there is.
He is. And he didn't play this weekend, but I got to see William Clark Green. He was at Cook's whenever Wade was playing, so it was great to see him too. He's got one of my favorite songs out. He just put it out. We played it this season. I got a whole lot of Lubbock left in me.
He played it live one time.
Oh, absolutely incredible, man! And one of the best lines. I think I'm not raising any Aggies, and I'm not sending them to UT. Something like that about his kids. I'm not paying for UTs. I'm at UT. You can't get any more Texas Tech than that.
That's pretty awesome. He Bowen performed in our ribbon cutting down in the south end zone as well. So it's good to have those guys just be around. How does that feel? Like you talked last week about, hey, I wanted to be a coach and a teacher. Told your Debbie's grandma, and they've grown up to this where you are now, and now these guys want to meet you and be around you. That's got to be pretty cool.
It is. It's really humbling, but I think I'm just as big as a geek of just fan out as far as whenever I see those guys, because I do. I am a huge country music fan, and whenever I see those guys, and I love live music, and man, Wade put on a great show, and it was fun to see him.
What's your favorite Wade Bowen song?
God, honestly, the newest one, Flying, it's kind of like, it's not with a G, I think it's I-N, but it's his newest album. I really do think he went to a whole nother level on his last album.
That's awesome. Hey, talked about second practice. All these guys we've talked about, now you see them down on the out there on the field, along with what a great group of returners. What are your thoughts a couple days in?
I think the biggest thing, and I think it's happened every year, it's continuing to happen, but this is a little bit different whenever you add some guys that we added, just the sheer size of the O-line and D-line. You look out there at left tackle, and it's 6'8", 350, and right tackle is 6'6", 320, and you look at Lee Hunter, who's 6'5", 325. That just the size of this group makes the biggest difference. We're fast, we recruit speed, and we've got a lot of speed, but just the size of this group, and just our young guys too. Charles Anderson, 6'5", 275 pounds, is going to be a redshirt freshman. Eddie Smith is 6'5.5", 282 pounds right now as a redshirt freshman. And so you've got some guys that are really big.
Hey, Cody Campbell sat right in that chair last week when we interviewed him for something else, and he talked about how, he said, we saw in the Super Bowl, right? You win it on the offensive line and defensive line.
No doubt. That's, you saw it in the Super Bowl. I think that's one thing. Texas, the last couple years when they've played in the playoffs, they have been really, really good up front on the offense and defensive side of the ball. Ohio State this year, Notre Dame, their offensive line, teams that are playing late in January or early and late in January are teams that are really good up front.
Hey, when you think of all those guys, I'll put you on the spot here. Is there a favorite recruiting story or something? You're a guy known as a great recruiter. When these guys, do you think of some great stories for them that you go, man, I never thought I'd see them out here after that, or just, kind of an intricate battle to get them or something? You got any good recruiting? I'm sure you got a million good recruiting stories. Something you can tell right here?
Oh man, well the best ones I probably can't tell right here.
So you can't tell.
And not in a bad way, but just so funny. But it's such a great place. As soon as they come to Lubbock, they feel how much they're cared about. I think they're blown away, though, the more time they spend here. I'm trying to think of just one of my favorite recruiting stories. I will tell you this. I love this. So we do an in-home visit. Coach Kitley's with me. We do an in-home visit with Will Hammond.
Yeah.
And his younger sister is a world champion dancer. And I'll screw up the dance, but it's kind of like, the Irish, what is that kind of the dance that they do?
I know.
So it's kind of something like that, but it's not exactly.
Interesting.
And they have a built-in studio in their garage. And so she's telling me how good she is, and their parents are going, yeah, we're fixed to go to like England to compete in the world champions. And I'm going, all right, I need to see this. So she goes out in the garage, and man, it was absolutely, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I could see what, like you're sitting there going, oh yeah, world champion. We're going to the worlds. We're going over to another country to compete. And I'm like, yeah. That was pretty cool. Not surprising though, knowing that family, one of the greatest families I've ever been around.
Maybe we should have her perform at Raider Alley.
Oh, that would be impressive.
Isn't it like clogging or something? I don't know what it is.
I don't even know.
It's cool. We should look that up.
Yeah,
but,
we're going to have to.
So you guys started practice this week, but you had the team week last week. We saw some video, some guys really exhausted.
Yeah.
And tired. What's that do for you guys as a group, to that week you have where you kind of put all that together? You call it the forging, and you really strengthen the bonds with this team. But what was that like for you guys last week?
You said it perfect. I mean, people are drawn together and connected through celebrating and adverse situations. Whenever it's really, really tough and you got to depend on each other, knowing that you're not out there by yourself. And so it was a great week. We start off with the Big 12 Challenge, and then we go to the forging. The one thing we did a little bit different this year, we brought the program in to end commitment week.
And they come in August, don't they normally?
They normally come right before camp.
Yeah, okay.
We wanted to change it up a little bit. One, we wanted to spend longer because they consult throughout the year on some leadership stuff, and this gives us on the front end of building this new team for them to help us do that. And it was great. I think some guys were really – the guys that have never done this before, there was not one single one of them that was like, Coach, I've never done anything like this. And after the forging, as good a shape as these guys are in, man, they're really testing and gassed.
Yeah, just watching it, I got to.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt.
It looks bad. Bad isn't hard. Is this a way? So you think about this with college athletics. We got all these 1-year guys, right?
Yeah.
You bring them in you bring a huge portal class in. You wonder sometimes about team chemistry and how do they mix in. Is this a way to kind of mitigate that a little bit? Like you're gonna test them together early, so by the time August rolls around, they really do kind of feel like a team.
Yeah, that's the key. That it's interesting. Until right now, I didn't think about it, but like it's almost the same thing you're trying to do in high school when you're creating your varsity program. When we really got rolling, I didn't have sophomores. My sophomores, they were as good as they were, and I had guys go everywhere in the country. They weren't good enough to play on the varsity with the juniors or seniors. And then there were some juniors that ended up getting D1 scholarships their senior year. They didn't play varsity. And so there's a lot of times you've got guys that have 1, maybe 2 years, and you've got to get them all together. And that's one thing I think that helps. We constantly talk about it. It's something that we'll talk about on our off day. We'll talk about it in our next practice. The whole key is building this team. The coaches, I think their job, without a doubt right now, is getting everything installed. My job, along with them, but my main job is to build this team. And that's what I look at it as. I mean, I'm going to put them in good positions to get the offense and defense and special teams installed, get the reps we need. But my primary focus is creating a team right now.
Yeah, because it seems like that's it's different from the Wes Welkers where they come up and they're 4 years and all that are kind of few and far between now.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you're not seeing it a lot, especially with the transfer portal. Yeah. You're seeing less and less guys that are playing multiple years. We've got a mixture. We're going to have a very unique situation at quarterback that very few people do. And when our guys go to the combine, it's going to be pretty cool to say that they started and finished at Texas Tech, because Baron Morton will start and finish at Texas Tech. Will Hammond, I truly believe, will start and finish at Texas Tech. So we've got a really good situation there, and we have a lot of guys like that. Jacoby Williams, Cam Dickey, guys like that are young guys that I know I could see them being, without a doubt, Red Raiders their entire career. But we have brought some guys in to help us win. And I think if we do it right, when they leave here, when they're on Monday Night Football and they say, they're going to say, I played for Texas Tech. That's who they're going to identify with if we do this thing right.
Yeah, and Kirby, that's a big thing for Kirby, right? If they're only going to be here a year, I want to make sure they have a great experience and they consider themselves Red Raiders for the rest of their lives, 1 year or 4 years or 5 years, whatever.
Yeah, and the great thing about Texas Tech, the alumni, is, man, that's part of our job is to connect them with them. And so there's so many times that their future is going to be in business with Red Raiders. I mean, they're going to get a great connection and develop a great network here.
All right, if you look in the all these guys going into this week, who's kind of stood out for you in the weight room? Like, has anybody said, man, this guy really was a stud this year?
Skylar is extremely strong. Davion Carter, who's coming back, on the bench, he's like 450. Same way with Vinny, he's like 450 on the bench. Some of the young guys that have really impressed me, Jacoby Williams squatted 505 at 185 pounds. Cam Dickey has had a great offseason. He's gotten really strong. The guy that I'd go back, and I've said a lot about this guy, but I'm going to say it again. Howard Sampson's 6'8" and squatted 605. It's really hard to be 6'8" and get to the level that we want you to squat at and squat that much weight. And so I was really impressed with him. I know I'm going to miss some guys, but
right. But obviously there's been a lot of progress made.
Well, I'm going to tell you the biggest thing, like, give you an example, like Michael Deaver has gained 10 pounds since he's been here January 10th. Leighton Stone has gained 10 pounds since he's been here January 10th. Marion Horn weighed 178. Probably the last game he played in against Arkansas, he weighs 192 today. Like the growth in the weight room. I'm really proud of what that group's done and how they've done it. And then we've got a whole another 6 to 8 weeks whenever we have the summer to just push that even farther. But I've been really, really happy with the growth of these guys. And some of the new guys like Amir, that's a transfer. Grant, who's a transfer. Those guys have gained 12 pounds since they've been here. And so we're feeding them right. We do a great job of taking care of them that way. I think they're blown away by the nutrition side of it. But then at weight room, we've really stressed getting bigger, faster, and stronger.
Leighton's a great example. He's a kid. On our signing day show, you and I were talking about him being a tough kid.
Yeah.
And I said something like, it kind of surprised you, and it kind of pissed him off, right? He's like, why is that surprising? I told him, because he's a pretty boy, right?
Yeah.
He's a good-looking kid, and I think he would just be more concerned about that kind of stuff. But in the old days, he'd be in high school right now.
No doubt.
Right? He'd be a little bit falling behind, but now he's past all that. He's already out of high school. He's here, and he's gained 10 pounds.
Yeah, it's really crazy now. Honestly, I tell every high school athlete, look, I'm not going to say what you should do. It's your choice, because I don't want to miss opportunities. But if you're not a guy in the spring that doesn't play baseball at a real high level, or you can't go win a medal in track at the state meet, I think it's crazy not to mid-year. The growth that these guys have, not only academically, they're going to have 15 hours, and then they'll have another 3 to 6 hours in the summer before everybody else starts. So that's a big part of it. But just being on our training table, eating the way we eat, being in our weight room, and then turning around and learning the offense. Those guys will come in the summer and they'll go into the fall at a whole nother level. It's interesting. Our mid-year freshmen and then the freshmen that come in June, it's almost like they're a full year older and they're the exact same age. And so it's been really good for us, and we'll keep pushing that and getting more and more.
as we kind of wrap up, and you look at all these guys, you just can't drive by and say, I'm going to stop in and check in on Tex Tech practice and watch that, right? Because of our location. We all know it's the greatest place on earth. But how important does social media come for you to show what happens? You're a social media warrior. I don't know how you do it. You're posting and reposting and liking and all that. It's amazing that you have that kind of energy and all that. But and it's you doing it. People go
100%.
Got Joey. No, I said no. It's Joey doing it. But how important is that to you guys?
Well, let me tell you a story about that real quick. What's funny about that is we had fantasy camp a couple weeks ago, and I had one of the campers. He goes, "So you don't run your media?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you were with us, and then I saw you reposted something and commented on something." And I said, "Yeah, I commented on this, and this." It was a player that we were recruiting. And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Well, I was sitting there talking to you. I saw that something went off, so I reposted it and commented on it." And he goes, "So you do all of it?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I do everything," because I never want to get in a conversation awkward with a recruit whenever somebody else did something for me, and that and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Or somebody has to brief me on something. I don't want to do that. There's a lot of coaches. There are more coaches, especially head coaches, that do their own social media. Way more. I've seen it, and
have somebody do it rather than
have somebody do it.
Yeah. Even
the contact between text and DMs, somebody does it for them, and he gets briefed on what they did.
Oh, wow.
And so I do it on my own. Social media is such a huge part of it. This is how these guys connect. It's really their world. When you're talking about X, when you're talking about Instagram, when you're talking about that's really their world. And so the things that we can put out on our social media really only helps recruiting.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks again. I know you already did another podcast, right?
Yeah.
Big time podcast earlier today. So you got a lot going on, a lot happening. I know spring break's coming up. Got to hopefully make a great run in basketball. So a lot happening right now, but appreciate your time today.
You bet. Thank you, man.
What's next with Joey McGuire? We'll be back again next week.